minutes we have, I want to ask what may be the most important question of this whole show here, and that is kind of at the 30,000 foot level in terms of geopolitically what the ramifications of this could be. So we just had just days ago, Xi Jinping announced that he was personally going to go to the Kazan meeting of the BRICS in Russia in late October, and with all of that's going on there, with the expansion of this emerging economic bloc, the competitor to the G7 and all that has been really existed since World War II, it seems like the stage has been set for others in the world to start moving in their direction and leaving our orbit here too. And especially if what you say turns out to be the case, and it seems like it's inevitable, whether it's going to be sometime in the next few months or even if, God forbid, another year and a half or so of war, even if it dragged on that long, eventually it's going to come down to that. It almost can't go any other way. That will mean that everything the West did, all of NATO, all these 50 nations we brag about all the time, utterly failed and lost. And then Russia is now the military threat conventionally on the continent, assuming it doesn't go nuclear. And then you have this large economic bloc that's starting to be a big competitor to the West. How do you see the geostrategic ramifications of this war shaken out?
Well, I think you've described the inevitable outcome, that the world is siding with BRICS. There's no question about it. And this is because the world in general is tired of being bullied by us. We've bullied the world with financial power. We've bullied the world with military power. We've bullied the world with economic strength. People are tired of it. They don't want to be told what to grow. They don't want to be told how to govern themselves. They don't want to be told what the preconditions are for a loan from the World Bank based on what we determine is appropriate or inappropriate. They want to live as free, independent, sovereign states. Russia, certainly President Putin and President Xi have both sent a clear message. Join us. There are no preconditions. You want to trade freely. You want to improve your standard of living. You want greater prosperity. You want peace and stability. We all support that. Join us. We forget that in the aftermath of World War II, with this menace that emanated from the Soviet Union of communism, and to a lesser extent, but it was still there, from China, the world turned to us as a safe haven and wanted our support and help and assistance. Yeah. All of that should have remained untarnished, if you will, at the end of the Cold War, had we simply said, we've been in all of these places long enough. We now respect everybody's right to rule themselves as they see fit. We respect your culture, your way of life, and we're not going to try to impose anything on you. We want to get along with everybody. We could have done that. We sabotaged all that by suddenly declaring vast tracts of the world the enemy, and anybody who didn't want to do what we wanted as the enemy. Remember, that was George Bush in 2001. You're either with us or you're against us. Yeah. The truth is that in most cases, most of the world is neutral. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
And then we're not satisfied to have, support in a particular setting like the UN or somewhere else. We want tributary states. And they're sick of it. We see ourselves as the center of the universe. We aren't. It's over. You just described the alternative. So how does this war end? It ends on terms that will be determined primarily by Moscow. But Moscow is not as stupid as we are. And when Moscow finally brings this to a close, I'm sure they will turn to all of the states that border Ukraine and ask them to sign up for whatever solution they determine is appropriate. And that solution could be radically different from what you see today on the map. And if it turns out that way, it's not the first time in that region of the world that places have been carved up and handed over to other powers. Everybody forgets the Poles were partitioned in the 1790s, not because people hated the Poles, not because the Poles had gold bullion stored to the nth degree, because the place was a catalyst for conflict. The Poles failed to govern themselves effectively. And the heads of Russia, Prussia, and Austria-Hungary looked at this and said, if we don't move in there, carve this place up and control it, it'll be a problem in perpetuity. We'll end up at war with each other. And they didn't want to go to war. I don't think anybody in Eastern Europe wants to go to war with Russia and vice versa. So I think it'll work itself out that way. We are probably going to be marginalized, if not outright kicked out and expelled.
Well, yeah, that's actually my